You know, some of the most terrifying stories don't start in a dark alley. They start in the most ordinary ways. A simple crush, a romantic holiday. But sometimes something much darker is waiting right under the surface. Today, we're going to break down a true story that turns Valentine's Day into an absolute fight for survival.
And that's the chilling final thought from this whole ordeal. It's that moment when a bad feeling, a vague sense of being watched, becomes a terrifying physical reality. But this didn't just happen out of the blue. So how does a simple college crush escalate to someone hiding in your bushes on Valentine's night? We're going to trace this story all the way back to the beginning and follow the red flags that led to this heart-pounding conclusion. All right, let's start at the beginning. For our narrator and his girlfriend, who we're going to call Nikki, things started in a super modern, super normal way, a simple reply to an Instagram story. What began online pretty quickly blossomed into a happy, real-world relationship.
So picture this. They've been together for about 3 years, a solid relationship that grew really naturally from that very first message. After the holidays, things are going great. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and for once, our narrator is actually excited about it. He's happy. He's got someone special. On the surface, everything seems absolutely perfect. But, as it turns out, Nikki was hiding something.
And this is where things take a really dark turn. As they're making their Valentine's plans, that happy vibe just shifts. Nikki finally opens up to him, and she reveals this incredibly disturbing situation she's been trying to handle all by herself. She had a stalker.
So this guy's name was Ben, and he wasn't some random stranger. Which is almost creepier, right? He was a former classmate. They had a group project together at the commuter college they both went to. What should have just been a simple academic thing had somehow twisted into this one-sided and deeply unsettling obsession.
And look, this wasn't some simple misunderstanding. This was a clear pattern. It started small, well, small-ish. Ben started following Nikki around campus after their project was done. Then, somehow, he got her personal phone number and the creepy text started. Nikki's strategy? Just ignore him. She hoped that if she didn't reply, he'd get the hint and just stop. He didn't.
So ignoring him clearly didn't work. In fact, it seemed to make him bolder. He crossed this terrifying line, moving his harassment from the digital world of text messages into the physical world, and I mean right to her front door.
Get this. One day, a box of chocolates just shows up at her door. It was from Ben. A text from him confirmed it, which proved he now knew exactly where she lived. This was a huge escalation. It's the moment she finally broke her silence and texted him back, telling him straight up, "I'm seeing someone. You need to leave me alone."
A few days go by quietly, and then it gets personal. A message comes through from some random fake number, and it uses our narrator's actual name. That's the moment this whole thing shifts. It's not just her problem anymore. The stalker knew who he was, and now, suddenly, he was part of it.
All right, so this brings us to the climax of the story, Valentine's night. Despite all this tension, they decide to go through with their plans. They go to this nice restaurant right on the water, just hoping for a normal, romantic night. But that unsettling feeling, it was about to follow them. So while they're eating outside, they notice this guy sitting all by himself on a nearby bench, hat pulled down low. Nikki kind of jokes, "What if that's Ben?" And they both laugh for a second. But the laughter just dies when the guy seems to react to them looking at him. He turns his head just a little, then quickly gets up and walks away. They try to just brush it off, They head back to the narrator's rental house to try and salvage the night. But that creepy feeling from the restaurant, it kind of followed them home. They're just sitting on the couch, and suddenly, this noise from the backyard just cuts through the silence. It was loud enough that they both heard it, clear as day. Nikki just freezes and whispers, "Did you hear that?" Our narrator goes outside to check it out, and he finds this stack of beach chairs that have been leaning against the house just knocked over. And here's the weird part. There wasn't even a tiny bit of wind. No way an animal did that. Something or someone had knocked them over. So he's looking around the dark yard, trying to figure it out, and that's when he sees him. A person, a tall figure, just standing there motionless in the bushes at the edge of the yard. He was there, watching them. The second the narrator shouts out, the figure just charges. It's all pure instinct at this point. Our guy tackles him, forces him to the ground, and just screams for Nikki to call 911. And when she runs outside and sees the man's face, her worst fears are confirmed. It was Ben. And then it hits him. That final, chilling detail.
Ben is wearing the exact same colored shirt as the man on the bench outside the restaurant. He hadn't just shown up at the house. He had been following them all night.
So the police show up, the immediate danger is over, and the chaos starts to settle. But now comes the fallout, the fight for safety and for justice.
Okay, so Ben gets arrested right there on the spot for trespassing. And with that whole mountain of evidence from his obsessive texts, Nikki is able to press further charges for both stalking and harassment. And of course, she immediately files for an order of protection against him.
And you know what? It actually worked. Thankfully, the system came through. After the arrest, the charges, and the protection order, Ben's campaign of terror was finally over. He never contacted her again.
This whole story is just wow. It's such a terrifying reminder of how that little gut feeling, that sense that something's off, can be absolutely right. From a weird guy on a bench to a strange noise in the dark, every single clue was pointing to a much bigger danger.